This is a Flying Cow production. Well, hello and welcome back to Fantasy Food Showdown. That's right. Every week we will be breaking down the newest episode of Tournament of Champions 6. I, of course, am your host, the Flying Cow, Clay Johnson. And here with me today to break down episode 2 of the tournament is Dan VanHeil. Dan, how are you, sir?
Doing good. Yes, I was going to say the worst half of the Dan Amanda pair.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, you know, anybody that was excited to hear Lauren on the other end this week, we had some scheduling issues. He should be here with us next week. But Dan graciously moved his we were actually going to have him next week, so he was willing to jump up and help me out here so that I wouldn't be talking to you guys all by my lonesome.
Oh, we can't have that.
No, because that's just boring. But yeah, Dan, it's good to have you here. It's been a little bit since we got to podcast, much less talk. So hopefully you're doing well.
Yeah. I was trying to think of the last thing we did. Wasn't that gosh, I think that we were talking about gummy bears. Not the actual
Yeah, you know
treat.
what? I do think that was the last thing that we did, because I think I was about to say movie battles, but I think that was after movie battles. So yeah, I think that was it. I think I saw you after that, obviously,
Yeah.
but you know, podcasting and stuff. I think that was it. I do want to say I meant to actually clear this up last week, but for anybody that is confused, the name of the podcast is Fantasy Food Showdown. For some reason, when I was making the artwork, I decided to write the word challenge. I don't know why, but I will say I do have another podcast, The Great Film Challenge, and maybe that's how it got stuck in my head. But for some reason, I made that art and I put it out, and it took a while for me to realize, honestly, it wasn't until the first episode came out and I heard myself say the right name that I was like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to call it. So I actually haven't checked. I know the day that I corrected the art, most things reverted back to the correct thing, but I don't know if YouTube Music, at least on that first episode, ever actually corrected itself. But you know, that is what the podcast is. So, and I personally like Showdown a little bit better. Number one, it's not repeating challenge from one of my other podcasts, and I just feel like this is a bit more of a showdown than a challenge.
Oh, it's definitely if it's a one-on-one, if it's a battle, you know, it's challenge to me sounds like, you know, like extreme elimination challenges. That it's you against something, not a person.
It sounds more like a quest type thing, which is kind of, you know, like what the movie thing that my nephew and I are doing is. But this is, you know, definitely not so much a quest as it is, you know, us talking about chefs competing, you know, in, as you say, head-to-head battles. And we're also a little bit in a head-to-head battle here, playing our own little game. So Dan, first of all, I do want to ask, you know, I asked Amanda last week, what is your kind of history with food shows, food competition shows, things like that?
I would say that I enjoy them when I come across them, and now that we're in a streaming service world, I do not get the chance to channel surf anymore,
Sure.
and it's
You don't
hard
just
to come.
randomly come across them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't randomly come across them. You have to be you have to actively seek stuff like that out. Well, you pretty
Yeah.
much have to seek everything you want to watch out nowadays, and it kind of
Pretty much.
it put a damper on it. Is that
Sure.
because we used to love watching like Food Channel, like Chopped, Iron Chef back in the day.
Yeah. I
Up
mean,
of
all
other-
of
yeah.
that stuff is on Max. I keep wanting to say HBO Max because I think Max is stupid.
Yeah, why
But
did they take that out? It's like that was a dumb idea on their part, I think.
yeah, it was. It was. I don't know anybody besides the people that made the decision that agree with it. But yeah, it's Max. But I mean, all those shows are over there, but as you say, you have to have now intentionality to find them. Which I mean, you might get a little bit now that you're digging into the world a little bit, but you're not going to randomly happen on something as much as you would have,
And
back
who
when you
knows?
were channel
Hopefully,
surfing.
hopefully the YouTube algorithm will take over and realize that I searched for it a few times to be like, oh, here's some food
Yeah,
related shows that
there you go.
aren't like Tide Pod challenges. I should
All
say
right.
that. I guess that's more of a TikTok thing.
Yeah. So had you heard of this show at all before I asked you guys to
I
talk
had
about this
not,
with me?
and in fact, not only had I not heard of it, when I heard about the show you were doing, when you said
Uh-huh.
fantasy food, in my mind, I could have sworn you were going to review all the things that Link cooks up in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay.
I was like, okay, this might be a little interesting.
Yeah,
like,
fantasy food. It's all about the food
yeah,
from Hook.
what is a Hylian herb?
It's
What do you think it
sure.
is?
Yeah,
I think it's a mustard
absolutely.
green. Nah, it's not.
Yeah.
Mustard green. It's probably parsley. No, it's in too many dishes to be parsley.
But yeah, no. So you guys watched this for the first time with me. I know Amanda, said that she got hooked on it, really interested in, continuing the season. What are your feelings on the show, having watched now at least 2 episodes of it?
I would say that not only am I hooked, I don't think I would be enjoying the show as much if I wasn't doing it for your podcast, because the addition of having our own bracket and like
Sure.
putting out our own this is an investment of like your time, your brain power. You start thinking about these things in your in your off things. It's easy enough to passively watch a show, especially a cooking competition show.
Sure.
Although with this one, it's like a full-on tournament, so like it's whittling people down versus like an episode of Chopped or an episode of Iron Chef was always just, all right, here's a one-on-one. Who out of these two people is going to win? It's like, okay, well, you could you can weigh the pros and cons of those people, but now you got like full backgrounds. I was like, oh, okay, so I just watched these two go at it, and I wonder how these guys are going to go against this one, and that one won against them. Oh, geez, how did that happen? And like, and then especially putting all your predictions out there is another thing that kind of gets you invested in. Is like, ooh, I wonder if I was right.
I mean, honestly, that's how I first got into football. Was I had a group of friends that all decided to play fantasy football, and I really didn't know that much about football, but they invited me to join, and I was like, sure. And then I started watching it because, as you say, I was invested. I had things on the line. I was, I even though I don't play fantasy football as much, I still on occasion like to watch a game. I actually watched the Super Bowl and as many of the playoffs as we could leading up to it with my sister this year. So, having something on the line, even if it's just, bragging rights, can often get you a little bit more interested and involved. So, I'm glad that gamifying this helped you gain an appreciation for it.
Oh yeah, now it's just another little level of friendly competition, and I find myself, especially when we were watching this, I had caught the first episode when Amanda was watching it for when she was doing her brackets and stuff.
Sure.
And yeah, it was pretty impressed with it. And then when ours was coming around, it was amazing to me, like the stuff that, all right, I just needed to pick like a winner and by how many and what and the point spread and what I think the scores was going to be. But I started painting scenarios in my head, each one, and we'll get to that in the main show, like once we get going on this. But I was coming up with like, okay, I'm imagining like the randomizer really screwing him over, and like I don't like I have the feeling that like if something goes wrong with the randomizer, they're not going to be happy with it, and like they're going to have the worst time handling it, kind of thing. And then like I would be building these little vignettes in my head, and I was actually surprised. On one of them, I was really close.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to take a look. Speaking of your predictions, I have your proposed bracket in front of me. I will say we're not going to break it down, every match. But I will say, just looking at your top four, you and I actually have a very similar top four. Actually very different than last week with Amanda. Amanda and I don't know that we had any top four in common.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, but you and I really only have one difference in our top four. We both have Antonio, we both have Jet, we both have Tobias, but you have Shota Nakajima, and you have Shota and Jet in the finals, and you actually have Shota winning this whole tournament. So I'm curious as to, I'm assuming like Amanda, you didn't really have a whole lot of information of background about these people, and I really enjoyed getting Amanda's backstory as to why she chose who she chose. So how did you make your decisions here in this bracket?
I think well, are we talking the whole bracket, or are we just talking the final four here?
I mean, let's we're going to just kind of talk generally, but I mean, definitely Shota. Give me your idea of why did you choose Shota? Like, I mean, with Amanda it was easy because it was like, well, I just watched their Instagram feed, and if they did ASMR, then I was done. So did you have some sort of, if they wore the color pink, you were in, or something like that? Like,
I think it had more to do with like if I remembered them from Iron Chef, because I mean I was going back to like some of the cooking shows I had seen and I remembered liking.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So if they had been on Iron Chef and they had a high ranking, I kind of put them in a higher spot in my mind, even if they were lower ranked than somebody who I hadn't heard or more importantly had remembered from Iron Chefs.
Sure.
So that was kind of my go-to. I was like, okay, were they on Iron Chef, and do I remember them being on Iron Chef?
Sure.
Yeah, but there was a lot of cross, especially with like I'll admit this. I liked it when it was almost like when it was the Japanese version of Iron Chef, and watching it and like having translations and all that. That was kind of, I felt like it was like the original. And then when it came to America, don't get me wrong, they did an absolute perfect job in casting William Shatner as the chairman? Is that what his name is?
Oh, okay. Okay. I know there was an Iron Chef like USA that happened before Iron Chef America. That one only lasted like one season. So I've actually not seen Iron Chef USA. So if William Shatner had anything to do with the show, I think it was that version.
That had to
Iron Chef America that I'm used to. Like the chairman on that was Mark Dacascos. and
Oh,
Alton
right.
Brown was like our lead commentator. And that lasted for a while.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really don't know anything about Iron Chef USA. To hear that William Shatner though was involved, I'm color me interested.
Yes.
Like at the very least, I would like
Yeah.
to see an episode or two to see what that was like.
And I cannot for the life of me remember if he did the same, biting into a bell pepper move.
Sure. I mean, Mark Dacascos definitely he did an apple instead. So,
It's
they
not the same.
obviously
Yeah.
pivoted. Yeah. Yeah.
Did they at least do the lighting change?
I know he did like some flips and stuff because he's a martial
Yeah,
artist
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, I do
But
recall.
yeah.
Gosh, and now I'm starting to think of some of the martial arts movies I used to see him in.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
were
I mean, he's in I think one of the early John Wicks. I know he's in one of the early John
Oh, yeah,
Wicks. I can't
yeah.
remember which one, but yeah.
I never saw the John Wicks, but I've seen so many clips and trailers that I probably
Sure.
recognized him when I was.
Yeah.
It's fun to see old action. I don't know to call him a star. I mean, he eventually did like starring roles, but most
Yeah.
of the time it was either. Oh man, see, this is us getting off on another rabbit hole.
I know. I warned you about that when we started. I was like, we can't do too many rabbit trails. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it seems like you were pulling on previous knowledge as much as you could. I mean, I will say the one chef that you do have in your final four that I'm like, I don't know if he was ever on Iron Chef. It would have been in one of the like later seasons because he was a former football player. Was
yeah.
Tobias Durzon.
Oh yeah,
So
Durzon, yeah.
I mean, did you see him on Iron Chef? Or if not, why did you rate him as highly as you did?
I don't think I did. I think
Because
I'm
I mean, I don't I
yeah,
mean, granted, I haven't seen every episode of Iron Chef, but that does seem a little before kind of at least his heyday.
but that's why I'm thinking that it might have been Chopped that I might have seen him on because that was my other go-to.
That's very
Those,
possible.
those were the two cooking
Sure.
shows that I kind of remembered people from. I think
Yeah.
I think Britt, I'm pretty sure I saw on both Chopped and Iron Chef.
Okay, sure.
And I had not seen Shota, but I can get to why I have him winning the whole thing. Is I was super impressed with him on this one.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. I mean, Shota is one of those guys that, I mean, I think like he mentioned in the episode that he got knocked out like pretty early last year. I think he might have even said in the first round. But in the past, I have seen him actually go pretty far. He's often been one of those guys that's actually kind of intimidated me a little bit because I'm like, oh, he could go against one of my favorites. I really hope that he doesn't end up knocking them out, kind of thing. So yeah. I mean, yeah, he's pretty impressive. I usually enjoy seeing, Shota do his thing. So yeah, no, I don't I don't blame you for that. But we've talked a little bit about your picks. Let's kind of start talking a bit about this episode in particular. So the matches for this episode, there were 4 matches, just like there will be in all of these first round matches. And so we had Iron Chef Stephanie Izard versus Michael Reed. We had Shota Nakajima versus Brittany Anderson. We have Kalina Bliss versus Chris Cosentino. And then the final match, the number 1 seed, Britt Rossino versus Chris O. And I will say, as far as predictions go, you and I actually chose the exact same people.
Oh.
For all 4 of these matches. And we'll do them one at a time. But so you and I are pretty neck and neck as far as our picks for this episode go.
Well, I am curious to see how close we are in point spread, because that one I was pretty hit or miss on.
Sure. Yeah. Point spread. Yeah. I mean, I will say last week I really impressed myself. This week, I don't think I was as good as I was last week.
Well, I listened to last week. Like you actually nailed what you got, like one. You got
I nailed one match completely, and then I got the losing score correct on another one.
I'm blanking on who that was. I think it was Adriana's score.
No. The match I got completely right was Kevin's match.
Oh yeah, Kevin versus Lee.
And then Kevin Lee, and then Antonia's match. I got Maria Mazon's score correct, and I was only off by one for Antonia's. So pretty decent. But yeah, so apologies for anybody that can hear the dogs losing their mind. Apparently a squirrel walked by. But just getting into the first match. The first match in this episode was Iron Chef Stephanie Izard versus Michael Reed. And I will say you and I both picked Stephanie Izard to win this match. I will say I was introduced to Stephanie Izard for the first time on an episode of Iron Chef after she had kind of been declared like a new Iron Chef. And I was really impressed with her. Honestly, I remember thinking this woman is one of the most impressive Iron Chefs I've ever seen. Like, it got to the point where I was like, I don't know if I'll ever see her lose. Like, she was just really impressive in Iron Chef. Unfortunately, her luck has not been as good in Tournament of Champions. I think she's been I think she's at least won a match or two, but I know she mentioned, that last year she got knocked out in the first round. Yeah. And so, she was looking to kind of get a little bit of redemption. And Michael Reed, I really didn't know very much about at all. I will say, I think that they said that he had, Chopped in his background. I think he was, again, I cannot remember like how he did on these shows, but I think they mentioned that he was on Bobby's Triple Threat, but I don't know how he did there. Like I said, I don't really know that much about him, and unfortunately I can't remember all of the details. I write down the things about the matches. I'm not going to write down everybody's accolades. I'm sorry, guys. You can look it up if it's really that important. But I mean, I didn't really know a whole lot about him, and I will say also there's a certain look that people have that a lot of times I look at them and I'm like, oh, okay, they're an out in the first round type of guy. Or, oh, I think this person might, get a couple wins under his belt before they go out in, the second or third round.
I totally understand that, because I was getting that feel too. It was almost like he
looked to me like I'm going to do really well in this match, but I'm not going to win. That's Hunter what he vibe. Looked like to me. That's the kind of vibe that I had. Like, I mean, obviously he deserves to be there. He wouldn't be there if he didn't, but he just kind of had this vibe of, I'm not going to go very far.
I think it had part to do with it was, it felt like his energy was just a little lower. Like it wasn't bad energy,
sure,
but it was Stephanie had her showmanship was just a cut above. She's an
Iron Chef.
Yeah,
she has that showmanship. She has that, charisma. She has that self-confidence. She's got all of that stuff going for her. And I mean, not to say that Michael didn't have, I mean, he definitely had self-confidence. He definitely had an element of charisma. It just I didn't see him getting past, her.
Yeah.
And so, getting into the match itself, they spin the randomizer, and for the protein, we get turkey thigh, which I'm immediately thinking, okay, that's going to be, they're going to have to really work at getting this thing cooked. Is my first thought.
I've been to Disney, it takes a lot to cook a turkey. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yukon Gold potatoes was their produce.
That's a good
they had
match.
to use. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
You hear those things together and that sounds great. They had to use a toaster. It had to be nutty and there had to be vanilla beans. When I look at that randomizer, the thing that sticks out the most to me is toaster.
Really? Okay. Because
I
saw nutty and I saw toaster, and I guess, see, the thing is that we don't have a regular toaster at our house. We have a toaster oven, and we've always had a toaster oven. So it never occurred to me that they had to use a vertical one.
Well, see, and that's the thing. That's what they were provided with. When it said toaster, I was like, I wonder if they can get away with a toaster oven. But what they were provided was, as you say, a traditional toaster.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, that's going to be tricky. How are they going to use this toaster? Because,
he toasted what I thought he was going to toast. Mike Reed definitely went with the toasting the nuts in the toaster. It's just that doing it with a little.
The way that he did it, though,
yeah.
and even when he did it, they said, "Don't do this at home." They put up on the screen, "Do not try this at home."
He might as well have wrapped them in forks.
Yeah, he made a packet out of foil.
Yeah.
Stuffed his nuts in there and then stuffed that in the toaster. And I'm just like, they said what I was thinking. Can he do that? And they're like, we're going to find out. I will say it worked.
It's amazing what you can do when it's not your toaster.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, so we've got Stephanie Izard making ground turkey and Sichuan peanut sauce over roasted potatoes. I will say the moment she said not only that she was using peanut sauce, but that she was making her own, I was like, she's got me. She's got me. I don't care what she is making. I want it.
When she said when she said a Szechuan peanut sauce, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have my attention at that one.
I love peanut sauce. Like you can pour peanut sauce over an old boot and I will eat it. I love a good peanut sauce. Like it's just amazing stuff. And then, I will say I understand her reasoning for grinding the turkey. Because I think with her dish, it made the most sense. And also for the sake of, as I said, cooking.
Yeah.
It would take the least amount of time. I will say grinding anything, especially when your opponent is going with, the full, the regular treatment, it just automatically doesn't look as good.
Yeah, I will give it that. And plus it feels like it's a bit of a safer move than trying to correctly cook a turkey, because if you screw that up. But the thing is that he did not screw that up. He knocked that part of it out of the park. Everybody on the panel was like, this is perfectly cooked turkey.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do want to mention, so Michael Reed made vanilla and brown butter Yukon mash with nut crusted turkey and herb salad. So, first of all, to call it not just, Yukon mash, but vanilla and brown butter Yukon mash, which
Yeah.
I will say, as someone who enjoys cooking myself, getting any sort of flavor into, like, distinct flavor into mashed potatoes is not easy.
No, I mean it's surprising because I try to do garlic mash all the time, and it's amazing how much you need to put in there.
How much you have to put in order for it to even taste a little bit
Yeah.
like the element. And so for him to, as it said, vanilla bean and brown butter. I mean, the brown butter, I mean, they even mentioned, because that's part of where the nuttiness comes from. I mean, obviously he
Mhm.
has his nut crusted turkey as well, but the brown butter adds an element of nuttiness. But then to mix that also with vanilla,
Yeah,
mixing vanilla into a savory kind of preparation is an interesting idea.
yeah,
But,
I'm surprised. I really wanted to see what that tasted like because you were
yeah,
worried about the toaster on the randomizer. I was worried
sure.
about the vanilla bean.
The vanilla bean.
I
Sure.
was like,
Sure. And I
how in the
mean,
world do you incorporate that?
yeah, that's the next place but I mean, honestly, I feel like, I mean, vanilla bean is one of those very, like, aromatic type of
Yes,
ingredient.
yes.
And so I really think that you can make it work in a multitude of different ways. I also, though, think that you need to be a high level chef to make it work well,
Yeah, that's why
you know.
I was that's why I wasn't sure what it was gonna do in his dish, but
Sure.
I was a little more confident in what Stephanie was how she was using it in her dish because that
Right.
Szechuan peppercorn
Yes.
and vanilla bean, I could I could see that in a sauce, like in a peanut sauce, like stuff like that.
Right.
That sort of um uh like Vietnamese or Thai dishes.
Right.
I
It
could
kind
I
of
could
mixes
picture that
those,
as a
yeah,
taste.
sweet and savory kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they are making these dishes, and I will say, I don't know about you, but here I am rooting for Stephanie Izard.
Hmm.
They finish up the plates, and I look at them, and I'm like, okay, I already said that I want to try Stephanie's, and I do. But when I hear Stephanie's, that's the one I want to try. When I look at the two of
Ooh.
them, the one I want to eat is Michael's.
Yeah. It because again, you said it at the beginning, and it's like ground turkey is just doesn't look all that
It's
great, but
it's not as appetizing
yeah.
as a full, turkey thigh.
Oh
And,
yeah.
especially like with the nut crust and then that mash, and like it made for a more in I like I wanted to eat it. I looked at
Yeah.
it and I wanted it. Whereas Stephanie's, I'm like, it looks good, and I definitely want to try that peanut sauce. But if I had to choose between the two of these,
Yeah.
I would go with Michael's, So then we get into the judging. And it I mean, I will also say, before we get into the judging and who the judges were, um, part of what didn't sell me about uh, Iron Chef Izard's plate was the plate that she chose, because you
Mm.
have this ground turkey with this peanut sauce, very like beige
Yeah, brown on
colored
brown with brown.
things, and then a wood dish. And
Oh, that's
so it was
right. Yeah.
it was very much like the same color on top of the same color, and I'm just like, why did she choose? I mean,
Yeah.
I like the idea of a wood dish, but when I'm looking at my colors and I'm realizing how much, beige, tan, whatever you want to call it, is in this, I'm
Mhm.
thinking, maybe I put this on a black dish
Ooh,
or a
good.
green or something to make it pop more, but it really melded in. And so
Yeah,
I really question her choice in plating there.
I can see that. I was going to ask you, it's like, well, what would you have chose? But you said like a black, like, oh yeah, like a glossy black one, like something like that.
Yeah, I mean, a glossy black would have been kind of like a, but even if it was a more of a pop of color, like even like red or
I can see it like a terracotta red. It could probably
sure, or
or
even like a teal or something like that. But anything but that, I almost said yellow, but I'm like, I don't know. That yellow is a little close to what so much of the dish was already. I just feel like it needed something more to help it pop. And I as much as I love the idea of, like I said, wood bowls, wood plating. I mean, that's a type of thing that I would own. If I was presenting it in a restaurant, I wouldn't serve that dish in that bowl.
Yeah, I can see that.
But getting into the judging, so our judges, once again, they always show a bit of,
oh yeah,
all of them, so that and like I said, very often I can guess based on, the way someone looks or something like that. I will say, I guessed Mei Lin. It took me a second because I think for like half a second, I was like, is that Manit again? Just because of the hair.
Yeah,
but then the more I looked at her, the more I was like, no. That style is more in Mei Lin. And I was right. And then with the next chef, it's a guy with a certain frame and white hair, and I'm like, that's Jonathan Waxman.
So you picked it up right away. I was like,
I picked it up.
Is this
right away?
Is one of the boom guys? Like he just had this kind of like walk to him, like,
sure.
Are they filming the right guy?
Yeah, I mean, I will say part of it is, I mean, if you've seen much, did you see much Iron Chef America?
I don't think I caught very many episodes fully, and that might be why I didn't recognize him to start off with, because he would have been
he was a judge on that.
Yeah, and they'd only show the judges really near the end. And
yeah,
if I had caught any episodes of Iron Chef America, I probably would have caught him in the middle and wouldn't have seen them until the end.
Yeah. But yeah, he was on that a lot. Oddly, the one that I did not guess was the one that they made so obvious last week, because they brought back Alex Guarnaschelli, and they didn't show the lower half of her jaw, so I didn't automatically know who it was.
Well, maybe you just thought, oh, well, they're going to get a whole new set of panelists, and they're not going to repeat already, are they?
Because very often they do. I mean, I almost wonder if maybe they were like, oh, geez, we really let the cat out of the bag by showing half of Alex's face. Let do over. Let's try it again. Let's see if we can make this more mysterious. And they did. Congratulations.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. But yeah, so you've got Alex, Alex Guarnaschelli, you've got Mei Lin, and you've got Jonathan Waxman. Stacked judging panel. Really impressive, all of them. So for each of the chefs, they, obviously they love both dishes. But with Reed, the critique was, I think Alex specifically said that it lacked acid. And I think that Michael even was afraid that was something that they were going to say.
Right. Yeah.
I think he even mentioned, if I'd had a little bit more time, or he might have actually even said, if I'd known who the judges were, I would have made sure to add that acid.
Yeah. That's what made me think that, like once the verdict came out and whoever won was advancing, and I realized it was, well, spoiler, it's him. But that made me realize that it's like, okay, he may not have, his showmanship may not be, or energy may not be as up to Stephanie's, but he's got the tactical thought going in. He's playing all the angles. It sounds like he's metagaming.
But I mean, I will say, him saying, if I had known, I mean, that's part of it. It's
Yeah.
not just blind judging in for the judges, it's also for the chefs. They don't know who they're cooking for.
Yeah.
So they can't style their cooking for any specific palate. They've just got to go by what they would make.
Mm-hmm.
You
And
know,
it is one of what do they call it? Double blind.
yeah,
Because the chefs don't
it's a
know who the
handicap.
judges are, and the judges
No,
don't know who the chefs are.
yeah, it's a handicap, no doubt, but it also it's it's they're both blind. So it's even playing field, you know. The only other critique is I think I can't remember if it was Maylin or Jonathan Waxman, but one of them said that they wished there were more potatoes.
That was Waxman. I remember that because I was looking at it, because when I was looking at that dish, I just thought I want that as a meal, but that turkey thigh was so large compared to the
was
amount
so
of
big. Yeah.
I'm sure it was probably
potatoes.
because it was opened up enough, and he had, it was, nice and fried up, that
Yeah.
it probably had, it probably wasn't like an inch thick. It was just a little wavy, but it still is like, if I'm going to eat that, I'm going to need a lot more mash, especially since you described that mash as like that vanilla bean and brown. I was like, I want all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, the next one, Iron Chef Stephanie Izard, they gave her the edge in nuttiness. But they basically said that they did not think that there was enough vanilla bean, and one of them, I can't remember who it was, said that they didn't feel like there was enough turkey. Which
really?
Again,
I don't remember which one said that.
Yeah, I don't remember either. For some reason, I'm thinking it was Maylin, but I'm not 100% about that. But yeah, they felt like there weren't enough of some of those elements. I will say, coming out of this, out of the judging, it felt very split to me. I felt like there was a slight edge for Michael Reed, but I really wasn't sure.
Yeah, I was pretty up in the air on it too, and I guess when they had said like she couldn't I think it was Maylin had said like I'm not getting enough of the vanilla. And it cuts to Stephanie going, "It's in everything." And I'm like,
yeah,
well, if you can't taste it, you're not gonna know. It's like,
yeah. So, getting to the scores. So, I mean, you mentioned it. Michael Reed actually did pull off. I mean, it wasn't like a huge upset because she was like the 4 seed and he was the 5.
Yeah,
but it was an upset.
Yep.
Because I mean, if nothing else, she's an Iron Chef.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember him saying, I think he beat Alex on Alex versus America, which means that because he said that he'd already beaten one Iron Chef and he was looking to add another.
That's right. I remember him saying
that. So, I mean, obviously, had that. So the score ended up 86-84. They were tied on taste at 43. And presentation was also tied at 8. He beat her on the randomizer by 2 points, 35-33. And where that comes down, because at the end of the match, they had a bit of the discussion Simon Majumdar had with the judges, and Maylin said that what she believed was the issue was that there were too many Sichuan peppercorns, and she thinks that's why she couldn't taste the vanilla bean.
Yeah, and I think the reason her saying that led me to a reason why we'll get to one of the later ones in this episode. I think that was also the downfall of one of the other ones.
Somebody else.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get to it of the you're overpowering one of the ingredients. Even though you're using the ingredient, you're overpowering it. You're not going to know. Like,
but I think that's what gave Michael the edge in the randomizer, because they could taste his vanilla bean in mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, not an easy feat. Better
put a lot in there.
It in her sauce, and that's what gave him the edge and therefore the win.
I bet he got another point for the toaster idea, because he
yeah, I mean, honestly, possibly.
That was a spectacle, if anything.
They both used it in a similar way to toast ingredients. She used it to toast scallions.
Scallions, or whatever you call them, green onions.
She just chucked them straight in there, whereas he made his little aluminum foil packet and put that in the toaster, which, again, don't try that at home, folks. I'm worried. But yeah, so that was the first match. So let's go ahead and let's get into the next match. So already you and I have lost our first match.
Yeah, we're both 0-1 already.
Yes, we both picked Stephanie, and she lost. And I mean, I will say that is, disappointing. And obviously, because we see later on that Michael definitely, like, honestly, after seeing Michael in this match, I'm a little worried for the next people going against him, because I'm like, okay, he's got a lot more stamina than I thought. He actually reminds me of a guy that I can't remember his name either, but was towards the end. I think his first name was Chris. I can't remember what his last name was, but toward in 24 and 24, he made it way longer than I thought he would. He made it to like the final 4 or 5. Like, he beat out people that I expected to go way beyond him. And so he kind of reminds me of that guy, and I'm just a little nervous for
silent killer.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously got he's got that he, like you said, he knows how to use the randomizer, he knows how to play the game, and he's got the confidence. So we'll see how he does going on in this tournament. But yeah, going into the next match, we have Shota Nakajima versus Brittany Anderson. We've talked a little bit about Shota, seen him in this tournament in the past. He's been on a ton of stuff, and he wins almost everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wins a lot. I'm pretty sure he's beaten Bobby Flay, and I think he won.
I got to make a little confession that I'm sure I don't know if Amanda mentioned this too, but whenever I think of Bobby Flay, I immediately skipped over everything about Bobby Flay to a parody character of him that was on iCarly named Ricky Flame. So whenever you think Bobby Flay, I think of Ricky Flame.
Sure. Hey, I mean, I've talked about it before. Every time I see Bobby Flay, the voice in my head is, "Hi, I'm Bobby Flay." So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Bobby Flay. So we a mutual bashing society. We're fine with this. I mean, again. Yeah.
Hey, who knows? Maybe he makes a really mean spaghetti taco. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do not doubt his cooking ability. What gets me is how many shows he's had on the Food Network, because compared to so many of the other personalities, he is a charisma black hole, in my opinion. Like, I just think that he is boring. I do not get, and I'm sure in person he must be lovely because he's got tons of friends, but on screen he just, to me, is boring, which is why I want to see him lose. Because he's like the Tom Brady of the Food Network.
I could see that. Know? Yeah, like he's the heel. He needs to go down.
Yeah. But yeah, then Brittany Anderson, I really didn't know very much about. She also has very impressive accolades, otherwise she wouldn't be here. She I think she played in and won her play-in match. She was the 7th seed. Showdown was number 2. So
I will say this, I didn't know much about her either. But when I was watching this match, I was very surprised that she was ranked only 7th seed. Like she was doing some bold choices, and they were all hitting it off. It's just that
I mean, honestly, I mean, we'll talk about it as we get into it, but Tiffany ended up being her correspondent, and Tiffany just kept going. Every time she talked to the camera, she just kept going on and on and on about how brilliant the moves that Brittany was making were.
Yeah.
And so
like,
right she obviously has she obviously has some ability. She obviously has, the knack of what it would take to do well in this game, but sometimes you go up against the wrong person. But
it doesn't matter how good of a gambler you are. You went up against 4 aces. It's just sorry.
Yeah. So the randomizer for this, the protein was mackerel. The produce was red radish. The spice grinder had to be used. It had to be grilled. Pretzel sticks. So when I look at this, and number one, I hear mackerel and red radish, I feel okay. That is right up Shoda's alley. That feels like Asian food to me.
Oh yeah, like when it got to mackerel, and I saw both of their faces light up because I knew he would do seafood, no problem, because one of his things was like he has he's based in Seattle, has like 4 or 5 restaurants.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, seafood, no problem. But then I remembered when I was watching Brittany's intros, and it was cutting to like stills of her, her food, her dishes, her restaurants. There was plenty of seafood there. So I was like, I think they're both in their wheelhouse. This is going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I will say, pretzel sticks, I think, I'm like, why is that on the wild card? Pretzel sticks are one of the easiest things to incorporate into any dish.
Yeah, you want something wild? Gummy bears. Let's see gummy bears. How about that?
Oh my God. I think you might kill some of the chefs if you put gummy bears on the wheel. I will say you're right. That is a wild card.
I was trying to think of a dessert topping that would be the funniest. So I was like, well, you could probably do something with Heath bars or crumbled up toffee, but no. Let's see what you can do with gummy bears.
That would
be
difficult. I mean, I will say, just off the top of my head, they'll probably turn it into a sauce.
Oh yeah.
You melt it down, you put a little, spice in it, you tame down the sugar. I go straight to sauce.
Oh yeah.
So Shota, or actually, sorry, Brittany Anderson, I will say sometimes I go to shorthand to write about these chefs because some of their names are so long. And so for her, I ended up just writing BA because it's Brittany Anderson, but I was like, it also translates as badass, which honestly I don't think is a stretch for what we see from her. But yeah, so she ends up making pickled mackerel with grilled radishes and a radish top aioli. I will say that sounds interesting to me. I hear that and I'm like, okay, I'm curious to see what she does with that. But yeah, I think the idea to make the aioli out of radish tops, like that sounds, I'm like, okay, that sounds intriguing. I'd like to see, what that is like, because you don't
Yeah.
hear about a lot of people using radish tops, and so
Yeah.
it's definitely an interesting use of the radish, which I feel can only add to your randomizer points.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking that like that was probably a thought of, well, I'm gonna need something like that. I might as well use the radish top. The
Yeah.
thing is that I have no idea what a radish top tastes like, so I don't know if it has a distinct flavor or something you would be able
I
to.
feel like it's probably like a typical like green, maybe with that type of radishy.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
almost imagining like a very light dill flavor for some reason,
I
but
don't know.
maybe not.
I wouldn't know. Um and then pickled mackerel. I will say my first thought whenever I hear any sort of pickled meat is I automatically assume that it's cold, which that isn't very appetizing to me, but it
Mhm.
didn't seem like it was. Um
Well, she did put it on the grill.
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, that was part of it. And then Shota made a Saba shiryaki mackerel with grated radish. I will say I meant to look this up.
Mm.
And I forgot.
Ah.
But it basically is some sort of like traditional Japanese preparation of fish.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, number one, everyone that heard he was doing this was like super impressed. And it looked great. I mean, we'll talk more about what the judges thought later, but it obviously was appealing to a lot of people.
Oh yeah. I will have to admit though, when it comes to any kind of fish dish,
Mm-hmm.
have at it. I'm not really big on fish.
No.
I'm sure that it tasted fantastic, and I'm sure that it was a popular thing. That
Mm-hmm.
was the other thing was like both of them were like, oh yeah, I have mackerel on on the menu at a couple of my places, and we
Right.
work with this,
Yeah.
and like they knew what they were doing with it, but it would be to
Absolutely.
me it'd be I would have skipped it over while reading the menu. Because I wouldn't have gone for
Sure.
any of the fish dishes. So
Gotcha.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure like the fact that he got to do this traditional Japanese style dish with this traditional fish, because I mean
Yeah.
the only fish that I'm really familiar with as a dish are when I'm usually doing sushi, and mackerel is not a
Yeah. Not
good fish for that
for sushi.
unless you're doing a sashimi or something.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't.
You
I
can do
mean,
it. I've seen it before, but
okay. I was about to
it
say it's definitely not a traditional fish to
yeah,
use in sushi.
yeah.
But
It's
yeah, I
apparently
mean,
it's
as
just
as you say, it could be.
it might be like it's just a little too fish-y.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, I have written down that they both seem confident. They both feel, like they know, what to do with these
Mhm.
flavors. They both seem, feel familiar with them. So, getting into the judging. Oh, actually, before we get into the judging, so you say you're not a big fish person. I, on the other
Mm.
hand, love fish.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I will say, um, I I don't know. I would have to be convinced that it was really good to choose like a fish dish at a restaurant over like maybe a good steak or pork chop or something like that. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, especially because fish is one of those things that people can have a tendency to overcook because
Yes,
they
that is
are afraid of
especially in a
undercooking.
restaurant.
Yeah, yeah. But when I get a good fish dish, I love it.
Mm.
Absolutely. So when you were looking at these plates, did either one look appetizing to
Oh,
you at all?
they both looked appetizing.
Okay.
the one I wanted to try more over the other was, and maybe it was because it was pickled, is that I kind of leaned away from that, but also I am a very much a fan of Japanese cuisine, so I saw that Japanese styled fish with the radish, and
Right.
I was definitely aiming towards that one. I will admit though that I think Brittany did a really I think she played it a little better. It had a little bit more appealing look to it. But I wanted to try Shota's more than I wanted to try hers.
Sure. I will say, of the dishes, I remember what these look like the least, but I do seem to remember. I mean, just hearing about Shota's preparation made me intrigued to want to try it.
Yeah.
And especially what happens later in the judging, I definitely, after all of that, would be more interested in trying Shota's, but you know, I'm sure Brittany's was great as well. But getting into the judging, so they loved Shota's, like they loved it. The only critique, and it actually was not across the board from all the judges. One judge in particular mentioned the acid level, and then another judge disagreed with their critique.
I remember
on the
that,
acid level. So, and I think it was between Alex and May. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I don't think it was wait a minute. Yeah. I think Waxman was disagreeing, was like, because he was the one in the last, so like something one of them.
Okay, yeah. I can't remember, but either way, to have the only critique be disagreed on, that's a pretty, that seems pretty much in your favor. And then as far as Brittany's, there were critiques about they liked it as well, but they thought that the radishes were cut too big, and one of them felt like their mackerel. I think Maylin said that her mackerel was a little dry.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed about when after she said that, I remember there was a point where Brittany was looking over them, and like she had said under their breath, I was like, "All right, where are my best ones?" Because she was picking over, because she was picking over her choice pieces, and I realized that in Shota's plating, all of his cuts were the same size and from roughly the same part of the fillet, and that got me thinking.
It's that precision, man.
Yeah,
he's got that precision.
So all of his were probably uniform, and she just pickled and did the whole thing, and maybe she took a corner. Or
I was going to say she probably had some that were slightly different sizes, which means if one was smaller, it had more likely to be overcooked and therefore drier. So yeah. I mean, I think you're right. That might have contributed to why one in particular, because we didn't hear anything from the judges agreeing or disagreeing, because she specifically said, I don't know about anyone else, but mine was a little too dry. So hearing that judging, it feels like Shota's got the edge, right? Yeah. So we get the scores back, and indeed Shota does win with a score of 88.
I know.
84. Not only was it, so this is a 4-point spread, but Shota actually so far has the highest score in the tournament.
Yeah.
So like I said,
88.
And he beat her in every category. 1 point in taste, 44 to 43. 1 point in presentation, 9 to 8. I will say, I think he's the first one that we've seen get 9 on the presentation.
That amazed me because I thought she
Because
had
you
better
gave the edge
presentation.
to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they actually gave him a 1, and that is high points for present, because I haven't mentioned this is out of a possible 100 points. They can
Right.
score a total of 50 in taste, 40 in the randomizer, and 10 in presentation.
Right.
So for him to get a 9 out of 10, that's impressive. That's
I
really
wonder if they actually taken into account like when they are taking into account the presentation, because I mentioned like he got all his fillets like cut the exact same, pretty much like very
sure.
uniform. I'm wondering if that was also part of the, oh well, this plate looks good, this plate a little off, and this plate like
Right.
but or maybe they took all 4 of them like they all look exactly the
Well,
same.
and
Perfect.
I also think like his was more kind of like abstract plating,
Mm.
you
So he
know, and
like
hers was a
all over the
bit
top.
more traditional. So I think that, they're grading on different scales. So I think that might be why traditionally hers looked better, but in a level of interest, it was his. And something I forgot to mention, Alex ate all of his.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that she said. She was the first judge to talk. First thing she said, I ate all of it, so I liked it.
Yeah.
And they even mentioned, when they were talking to Simon, they were like, you don't usually do that because you got to be judging all night.
Yeah.
So to eat an entire thing, that's saying something.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I will say we have been forgetting to talk about our own point picks. So really
Oh,
quick, I
yeah.
want to pull up yours. So let's see, well, I mean, the Izard Reed, it doesn't really matter because we were both wrong.
Yeah.
The other person won. But so for
I think I had a
Shota versus
yeah.
Brittany, you were actually pretty close.
I was
I think
close.
you were only like a couple points off on both of them
Yeah,
because
I think
you
I was
picked.
1 point off and on one
You
and
were
2
2
points off
points
on the
off
other.
on Shota. You said 90. He got 88. And you
Yeah.
were 1 point off on Brittany. You said 85. She got 84.
4. Yeah, so I
Um,
overshot them, but not by a lot.
Not by much. Yeah. So my predictions, I chose Shota at 84. So I gave him Brittany's score.
Ah.
And I had Brittany at 83. So I thought it was going to be a much closer match
Oh,
than it ended
okay.
up being. But yeah. So yeah, so but we both got that one right at least. So that's that's something. I will say, yeah, once again, I gave the wrong person the wrong score. I gave Stephanie, I think I gave Michael 84, and it ended up that Iron Chef Izard got 84
Oh.
points. So yeah, I'm just transposing my numbers all over the place here.
I think I did pretty good with the spread on them. I was off. I think it was a 2 point spread for them, and I think I
Yeah.
anticipated a 1 point spread, but I
Yeah.
lowballed them really bad on mine.
Yeah,
I think
honestly, if I'd
79 to
gotten
80.
if I had gotten the people right, I would have been pretty close because
Mm.
I said 87 to 84. It was 86 to 84, but flopped
Oh,
the people.
yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just picking for the wrong people is all it was. And honestly, you also actually wait, did we both say 87 to 84? I think we did.
On Stephanie and Reed?
Yeah, we both said
Oh,
87 to 84.
okay. I could have
That's so
sworn, I guess
crazy.
I guess 79 to 80
Oh
on
wait, hold on.
somebody. I don't remember who it was then.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. I might be looking at the wrong thing. I was. Yeah.
Oh.
No, you're right. You said 80 to 79.
Oh.
So I just looked at mine twice. Yeah. Lovely. So yeah, you were not that close.
Yeah, I was not.
That's it. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. So let's go into the third match, which I will say I was expecting Shota's match to be third because I think last week they had the number 2 seed
Oh
go
yeah, like
third, and this week for some reason they had Shota go second. I don't know.
Like the high seeds on this was like 4, 2, 3, 1.
Yeah, it was weird. But anyway, so the next match was Kalina Bliss versus Chris Cosentino. And the majority of my knowledge of Kalina is seeing her on the most recent season of Top Chef. She went out and honestly, I think could have easily fought her way back in, but she chose not to.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's also apparently a previous Chop champion, and has won, numerous other things. Yeah, she's and then Chris has been around for a while.
Oh, quite a
I
bit,
believe he's won Iron Chef before
Mhm.
and various other things. So, it's an interesting matchup. I will say we both picked Kalina Bliss for
Yep.
this one. I'm interested why you chose Kalina for this match. Had you seen her did you see her on Chopped?
I remember seeing both of them. I think
Okay.
it was just when I was watching them being introduced, because like when
Mhm.
the way we were doing this is that we saw the head-to-head, like and then
Okay.
right before they were announced, and like this is all right, chef, they're ready for you, chef. And then right before uh I blanked on our guy, right before Guy Fieri announces them, we pause it and like, all right, who do I pick? And for some reason,
So you'd already watched the match before you picked?
no. We hadn't watched the match. We had
Okay.
I was watching the show and like paused it right before they get introduced for their match.
Okay.
And that was the point where I was going to pick one over the other and made my point spread. And for some reason, I was getting this vibe from Chris that I felt like something about this. I don't know where this came from, but something about him. I thought, I feel like the randomizer is going to screw him over. I don't know why, but I had this thought in my head of like he just had this energy about him of like he. And it turned out I was right in a tiny little way.
Sure.
And the reason was completely different, but I thought something about like he's gonna get a little bullheaded or something. I'm feeling like he's gonna be set in some direction, and I think that plays out. I'll get when we get to it. But that was the reason I went with Kalina over him. It's just I felt like he was going to stumble somehow.
Okay. All right. So, first of all, they come out and Guy mentions it. Kalina walks out and immediately makes the belt gesture.
Yes.
Which if you're not familiar with what that is a thing that you will see a lot in wrestling or any sort of competitive thing where they have a belt. Is they will basically take both hands and like gesture around their waist, like that belt is mine type of thing. And she did that first time ever in the tournament, and she immediately makes the belt gesture, and I'm just like, okay, all right, she's here to play. Okay, all right. And so yeah, I thought that was fun. But they spin the randomizer, and we get for the protein pork tenderloin. The produce was Anaheim peppers. They had to use an electric carving knife. Something had to be stuffed, and they had to use sunflower seeds.
The sunflower seeds for me was I figured they were going to use it in like part of like a crust or a sauce or
Yeah,
something like
I was
that.
about to say, I figured they were probably going to grind it up and put it
Mm,
in some sort of, as you say, maybe some sort of crust or something like that.
yeah.
As far as what they ended up doing, I will say it was obvious that Kalina had not worked with Guy Fieri before, because he has this running joke on all of his competition shows where he will just say 3, 2, 1, go, as if he's explaining what he's going to say, but he
Ah,
expects that's when the time starts. And he
ah.
was like, I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go. Chris goes and she stands there for a
Oh
second.
yeah,
Like she's waiting
I did
for
notice that. I didn't
the,
know that was why, because I am
yeah.
not as familiar with Guy Fieri
Yeah, so you
catchphrases as
also
you
would have been stuck. I mean, I will say it didn't really end up hurting her, but I'm just like, man, guy, you got to give newbies like a heads up, or somebody has to, because that's a couple seconds that she lost, you know. But yeah, so
he could have ran over there and grabbed all the sunflower seeds, and then like, then what are you
yeah,
gonna
it's
do?
all yeah. He's gonna have sunflower seeds coming out the wazoo. But okay, so Kalina ends up making grilled spiced pork loin with
Mm.
Anaheim pepper stuffed with pork. Okay,
Yeah,
sounds really good to me.
I was anticipating somebody doing a stuffed pepper, and I'm glad
Yeah,
it was hers.
I mean, honestly, when she initially said, "I don't want to stuff the pork," I'm like, why not? I
Oh
love
yeah,
stuffed. Yeah, but I will say when she said she was going to stuff the pepper and she was going to stuff it with pork, I'm like, okay, that actually sounds pretty smart, because
yeah,
you're already using the pork twice, you know. So I feel like that's a pretty smart just basic plan. And then so Chris makes a pork tenderloin roulade and Anaheim pepper salsa with charred tomatillos. Now, I will say, the moment Chris said he was going to make a roulade, I was like, okay, I'm with you, Chris, because I
yeah.
love a roulade. I mean, I will say a roulade. I love personally making roulades, because roulades are one of the simplest things to do that will impress so many people.
Oh yeah, I
You make
loved
a
that they both.
roulade and people,
Yeah,
oh yeah, but honestly, when you know how to do, they're super easy. They're really not as complicated as people might think they are, but every time you make them, people are going to be super impressed with you.
yeah,
So, it's
it,
definitely like a go-to food, if
and
I've
it
got a date or something
yeah,
like
and
that.
it shoots you up in the presentation category, I think, as well, because
Uh,
it's just a beautiful dish.
Yeah, it's a beautiful look. So I'm like, okay, all right, I'm with you, Chris. I want to see what you do with this. So Kalina decides to, she's making her stuffing for the peppers, and she decides not just to grind up some of the pork loin, because she's definitely going to use that because she wants the pork in there, but
Hmm.
she's also going to mix in mortadella, which, for anyone that's not familiar with that, it's a processed meat, but it's
Right.
heavy on marbling. It honestly looks
It looked like
similar to like a
cheese.
bologna.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah,
like a
yeah, it
giant
does.
chunk of
It
cheese.
looks kind of like a meat colored cheese.
Hmm.
But it looks like a bologna because it's that processed meat, but it also has that thick, rounds of fat in
Yeah,
it. So it's got that marbling. It's going to, because she mentions that pork tenderloin does not have a lot
yeah.
of
It is.
natural
It
flavor.
is lean, lean,
It's
lean, lean.
very lean. Yeah. So that, using that mortadella really kind of infuses more flavor into that. So she's got the pork, but this is, so that's going to provide that pork taste. But now we're going to ramp up the fat and, ramp up the pork flavor
Hmm.
into by including the mortadella, which I honestly thought was a really smart idea. I will say when I first looked at this randomizer, it doesn't look, too
It's not crazy.
no.
It's
The one thing that I was like, I knew it wasn't going to be hard for them to use, but I was like the most dismissive about the electric carving knife because to me, the only real use for an electric carving knife is like, carving up your Thanksgiving turkey or whatever like that. And it just seems like a device that, cooks who aren't professional cooks would use.
right.
Boy, was I wrong. They loved this electric carving knife to the point that Kalina was like, I might just start using this. Like they loved it. And Chris did not use a different knife. That's what he used for all of his. And I think part of that was randomizer.
Yeah, getting the randomizer points for it.
Right. But I think they also just loved using it.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you think about it, like, yes, if you're a skilled enough chef, it probably isn't much of a time saver. But when you have to use it and you get points for using it and finding out like, and plus you got a half hour. It's like, it's a half hour to do all this.
Yeah.
To be able to get all that out of the way that quickly and not have to worry about like, I need to focus. I need to not cut myself. I need to, so I need to show off my skills. It's just I just need to get this done. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, they loved it. They absolutely did. So, they finish with these dishes. And I will say, when I looked at these dishes, I couldn't choose. Just on visual presentation, like I loved the look of Kalina's. Like it just looked with that pork loin sliced the way that it was and the stuffed pepper, like it looked amazing. But then I saw that roulade, and again, I love a roulade, and I'm just like,
have I mentioned yet that I have not had dinner tonight?
Maybe
this is a bad idea.
But I mean, did you have a favorite between these two? Were you able to pick?
I went with the pork tenderloin because it just looked so good, but I was happy to see them. I cannot pronounce it. The other one,
the roulade. Yeah,
the roulade. I love that look, and I was just glad to see it there. And when they said stuffed, I was like, okay, I hope somebody does this and somebody does that, and they don't both do one or the other. And I was so glad when I was like, okay, she's doing the stuffed peppers. I wanted to see that. He's doing the rod, and it's like that's what I wanted to see. So I was a little confused because he was going on about being doing a Latin based dish, and I'm like, stuffed pepper is very Latin.
Yeah, and honestly, roulade is more French. I mean, roulade, it's in the name. I mean, obviously he was doing like the salsa and everything. But
and I will say, I think that was when I saw what he was doing, and when he described the Anaheim chili as kind of like grassy and one note, and he's making a Latin dish. I'm like, all right, this is the bullheadedness. This is what's gonna sting. This is what's gonna burn him. He's going to cover up like we already saw like two competitions back complaining about they couldn't taste the vanilla, and I just heard you describe this pepper as mid-road, not very spicy, and you want to do a Latin dish. It's like you're gonna overpower it. You're gonna cover it up, and you're gonna lose points for that. And it's like, oh, that's the bullheadedness.
yeah. So the judges, they again, they loved both dishes. They wanted more fat in Kalina's, and I will say the moment they said that, she agreed. She was like, no, it definitely needed more fat. But again, pork tenderloin.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm wondering if they were just complaining about it being like, oh well, I got the fat from the from the stuffed pepper because you put
I was
in
about
that.
to say, right. I think that they were looking for her to use like butter or some like
Yeah,
something just a little bit more
to kick
fat
up the
in the dish.
tenderloin. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that's really what they were looking for, was to kind of kick up that tenderloin, as you said.
Mhm.
Whereas Chris's, they seemed to enjoy the fat content. They loved his salsa, but
Oh.
they did feel like his pork was a little dry. For
Mm.
me, anytime they say that one chef's dish is dry and they don't say anything about the meat preparation of the other,
Mm.
I always feel like we're leaning towards that the chef, that they didn't complain about dryness.
And
I,
in her case, I think they did compliment how well it was cooked. But
yeah.
it,
Oh yeah.
but
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
They
complaining,
really
the
enjoyed
complaint
the
wasn't
cook on
about the,
the. Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't about the texture or the dryness. It was about the fat content, and it was like that
Right.
was
Yeah.
not so much a you didn't make it. It was this could have been so much more.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So getting into scoring, so we both picked Kalina to win, and we were both right. She
Yep.
won 80-78. So it was only a 2-point game.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really close. And so I will say, and I have said since the beginning, 9 times out of 10, the person who wins the randomizer wins the match.
Yep.
This is the exception,
Oh, okay.
because
That
she
knife. It was
won
that
on
knife.
taste. Yeah, she won on taste 39-37.
Mm.
She also won on so 2 points there. She also won in presentation 9-8. Again, 9 points in presentation, and
Yeah.
again, looked amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
good. But on the randomizer, he actually won the randomizer by 1 point, 33-32.
Yep.
Obviously, her flavor was what saved her there.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah, I mean that I will say, I think that's the exception that proves the rule, because I think that the majority of the time you will see the person who wins the randomizer win the match, but obviously that's just not what happened here.
yeah, I think that comes down to what the show is throwing at them is like we both know you guys are going to do great on taste. Whatever you're gonna
Yeah.
make, it's gonna taste good. I was like, let's see. I was like, all right, it's like, all right, cheese grater. How are you going to use a cheese grater? Let's see. You have to. Let's see who can come up with something. Oh no, I don't think I hear you.
Sure.
Oh, oh. Unfortunately, I think you just
Yeah,
froze on
sorry,
me.
my internet is a little spotty at the moment.
Okay. Oh, well, we have one more to go. Let's see if we can make it.
Did we hold on? All right. Sorry about that, folks. Internet was having a little bit of issues, but Dan, what were you saying before about the randomizer and your thoughts on that?
I would agree with you that really the randomizer is the heart of the whole competition. It's really the thing you're testing, because if you're a chef, you already know how to plate. You already know how to make it look good. You already know how to make stuff taste good, no matter what you got. The randomizer is really what we're testing, because this is this is what makes it a show. This was what makes it a game show. Is the
It,
all right?
yeah,
Let's see what
it's the
happens when.
gamification of it. Yeah.
Yes, this is the element we're actually grading you on. What are you going to do when you got pretzel sticks and you have to make something nutty? It's just like it's like a nutty mackerel with pretzel. What?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, as far as our scores go, so on this one, and I'm trying to remember, so I said 85 to 82. The actual score was what, 80 to 78?
Yeah.
So not very close. Not super close. Yours, I mean, I'm within about 5 for both. So, not horrible. And then you said for these two, 86 to 83.
Yeah.
So a little bit farther off.
I think I was imagining like all right, if you would have switched my predictions for the first one with this one,
Yeah, honestly, if
I would have
you would
nailed it.
have been 1 point off of having the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you had switched your Izard prediction with this one, but instead, you ended up being 6 points off of Kalina.
They love you.
Yeah, it's fine.
What could have been?
All right, so yeah. But so the final match for the night was the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed, Britt Rossino, going up against the number 8 seed, Chris O. And this is one of the matches that I am fully aware of both competitors. Honestly, I'm probably more familiar with Chris O than I am Britt, because Britt I've really only seen in TOC. Now, obviously, she's been super impressive. The only person that has ever beaten Britt Rossino is Manit Chauhan, and she's got 2 belts. So, it's going to take quite somebody to take Britt Rossino down in this tournament. But Chris O, I have seen him on so many things. I have seen him in the Great Food Truck Race. I've seen, which he won. I saw him on Cutthroat Kitchen, which he won. I have seen him in 24 and 24, which he got really far. He was one of the top 3 or 4, went really far in the competition. And I've seen him in I'm pretty sure he's won Chopped as well. He has won a bunch of stuff. And here's the thing about Chris O, because he has tried to play in, I think, at least 1 or 2 other times. This is the first time that he's made the tournament. But no slouch, absolutely none. And Chris O has so much confidence, to the point that if you didn't also know that, if you also didn't have the feeling that this was a good guy, I could see people being very annoyed by him, because he is confident almost to a fault. He just fully believes that he can and will do and beat anyone. But I said, there's enough humility there that he's still likable.
Yeah, he definitely gave the energy of it wasn't I could see if it was any other not as nice guy, if you gave that energy to Bobby Flay.
I was about to say, if Bobby Flay had that energy, I mean, he'd be even higher on my shit list. Yeah.
So I can
definitely
see how
somebody like Bobby Flay doesn't need that type of energy.
Yeah. But I can see how it's that energy serves him. It serves Chris O.
It really does. And so they spin the randomizer, and for protein they get top sirloin. We've got mustard greens as the produce. They have to use a French press. Something has to be whipped, and they have to use cheese curds. Yeah. Again, I look at this. I will say, at first, I was a little like, okay, what is Chris going to do with this? Because he's definitely more Korean flavors. But again, when he pops up with what he popped up with, I'm like, okay, not surprised. That actually makes total sense. The one thing that I'm like, okay, French press would probably throw me for a loop, but I not for a second thought that it was going to be any problem for either one of them.
Yeah. Of anything, I don't think there was anything in the randomizer that I thought was going to be a worry for anybody. I'll put it that way. Like I think that they all knew how to handle pretty much everything that was in that randomizer.
Yeah.
Especially because great pairings. I mean, whipped and a top sirloin. Of course, you're gonna have whipped potatoes and collard. Was it mustard greens or collard greens?
Mustard greens.
I mean, everything about those ingredients, I'm like, those all seem to fit really well. And a French press is, like, as one of them said, like, it's just essentially just a big strainer.
Yeah. And I will say, we'll talk about what they made in just a second, but I was actually slightly more impressed with Chris's use of it simply because it wasn't the typical use. And while I knew that Britt was going to do something great with including the coffee, I was almost like a little disappointed that she didn't use it for something a little more out of the box.
Yeah.
She
almost, you just like, oh, well, I'm making this and I would use a French press for this anyway, kind of thing.
So it did, like, it was a good use, but his being out of the box.
Yeah.
I wish that maybe she had used it twice, maybe in the traditional and then maybe in a more.
And that might explain like what the scores were, what they were is, like,
who knows?
He definitely had a lot of, he was throwing, like Brittany did, a lot of energy and a lot of gambling, kind of like a lot of risk taking of like, let's try this out. Let's very creative.
This was a fun match to watch because I'll tell you right now, I could not choose between these two dishes. I looked at these dishes at the end and I was like, I want both. Ooh. Like I literally wrote, I want both of these so bad. I did. like if I could have reached through my television to eat them both, I would have. Like, they just looked so good. So let's talk a little bit more about what they made. So Britt made a coffee crusted top sirloin, which genius, of course, with braised mustard greens and poutine gravy. I mean, you just say that over whipped mashed potatoes. First of all, a poutine, like poutine, number one, like, you just say what poutine is, and it's like, okay, you've just named like the perfect food. And now you're going to turn that into a gravy and put that over mashed potato, like whipped potato. Okay. You got me. I'm in. But then Chris makes Korean barbecue, which, okay, sold, with kimchi. So a melding between these cheese curds and like a kimchi. A kimchi fondue over kimchi fried rice. Again, sold. I'm in. Like, I haven't even seen the dishes yet, and I already want both of them.
Yeah, and when he mentioned the fried rice, that's when it occurred to me why, if we can dip back into episode 1 and Rocco, it was Rocco versus Tim Love. Why I think Tim Love's like I love a good curry, but I think the reason it didn't hit for me when I was looking at it is that where's the rice? And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, rice takes longer than 30 minutes to cook down. They're not going to have rice. But then he puts rice. He does
He
fried rice.
puts it in the microwave.
Fried rice. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you
Well,
can get
I
away with
mean,
instant rice and like
again,
mixing stuff into it.
Korean chef, he has to make rice all the time. Of
Yeah.
course, he's thinking about those shortcuts.
Mhm.
I mean, I will say that you will see rice in a lot of in a few more dishes. Not all of them will be microwaved. There are other ways to fast pace that process.
Great way to
But
reheat it, though. By the way, if you ever need to
yeah,
reheat old rice, just
it's
wet a
tough.
towel,
Yeah,
put it over it, and put it in the microwave.
there you go.
It
Yeah,
essentially
yeah,
re-steams
that's
it. It
true.
is fantastic. And now
Yeah,
I'm
because
hungry again.
you got to get that moisture back in because it
Yeah.
dries out when you, especially honestly, if you leave rice out, it's easier to reheat than it is if you put it in the fridge.
Oh.
Now you can only do that for so long.
Yeah, yeah.
But it loses less moisture sitting out than it does going in the fridge. If I have like a takeout rice dish and I know, okay, I'm eating this for lunch and I'm gonna eat the rest for dinner, I'll leave it on the counter.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
I mean, in a container, sealed,
Right, right.
but I'll leave it in room temperature rather than in the cold fridge, because it won't dry out as fast.
Good to know. All right.
Um,
Another little rabbit
yeah,
hole we went
yeah,
down, but we'll reel it back in.
yeah. But again, we're giving our own little cooking tips. We
Yeah,
should
yeah.
have our own show, Dan.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah. So let's see. I think the next thing that I have written down. So all of this is looking good. But the thing that all of a sudden made me go, whoa, okay, Brit has gone to another level is when she did that tempura fried mustard green chip.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, okay, I want that so bad right now. Like it just, and I mean, we'll talk about it when we get there, but the judges also loved it. Like it was a stroke of genius. It absolutely was. Honestly, when I first saw her do it, I assumed that she was like going to crumble it up, but no, she left it whole on the plate.
It's like a dorsal fin just sticking right up. It was like brilliant.
Yeah, just sitting in. I mean, and it worked. It totally worked.
It was just a brilliant use of the thing a second time. It was like another little thing for the randomizer.
Yeah, it was a brilliant touch. It really was. So yeah, like I said, I could not choose between these two dishes. So we get the judges, and they love Brit's dish to the point that Jonathan Waxman was like, if I had to say something. So we're pulling teeth here. We're pulling teeth just to get a critique. He's like, if I had to say something, I wish the steak was a little crustier. And it seemed like like all three judges kind of agreed with that. And honestly, like Brit, felt like that was fair as well. Yeah, exactly. So, they go to Chris's. They love Chris's, of course. And Waxman, again, the only thing he can say is that the steak and rice had the same texture, which I don't even know what that means.
It's like steak and rice. Well, I mean, it was fried rice.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh,
but still,
okay. It had the same texture, but again, that was the only critique he could give, and I'm just like, okay, Brit's critique was tiny, and Chris's, I don't even know what it means. It makes no sense to me, but I had no clue who was coming out of this with the win. Did you?
So I had given it to Britt, but I was very much so this was a little bit of metagaming on my part when we fired
Okay.
up the episode, and
Yeah.
they were showing clips of, like, what's to come, and
Yeah.
at one point, Guy Fieri says this was a 1 point difference, and I don't even
And then they
remember if
showed
they were
this.
showing them. I don't think they may have been showing
No, they
somebody
did.
else.
They did. Now,
Okay, they did show
here's the
them.
thing. They did. I don't remember if they showed Brit. I think it was like in a like an angle shot that might have
Yeah,
gotten like her back and her arm, but it was mostly on
but I
Chris. Now,
also yeah.
here's the thing. I have
Mhm.
seen them mix footage with
Yes,
dialogue or reactions or things like that to make you
and I
think
had that
one
in
thing,
mind
but it's
too, yeah.
yeah. So I was like, okay, because honestly, my first thought was crap. I wish I could change my score. But
But
then I was like, you know what? There's no guarantee that
yeah,
this was actually for them.
so here's the thing though, is that the reason I was able to use that was that uh we like I said, I didn't decide on who I was picking as the winner
Until they
until
came out. Right.
they were coming out. So I had already
Yeah.
seen the last three, and none of the other
Yeah.
three had a 1 point
Right.
difference. So I was like, I
No.
guess that means this one's going to be the one that does have a 1 point difference. So I did
Okay.
put it, but
Sure.
that's what made me worry, is that, like, if it's a 1 point distance between a 1 seed and an 8 seed,
Yeah.
did he overcome? And I was like, I don't know if he did. So I just
Yeah.
put Britt on top, and I'll be frank, I lucked out because, I mean, he did a fantastic job, obviously.
He did. I mean, hats off to Chris O. But yeah, so it was a 1 point game, but Britt Rossino got the win. And I will say I was nervous because Britt is not only in my top four, I've got her in the finals.
Mm,
So I've got her projected pretty far. If she gets knocked out, uh I'm gonna have to do some scrambling in my bracket.
yeah, the only
So
reason I don't have her in the top 4 is because she had to
you
go
have
up
Showdown. Yeah,
before
you have
before
Showdown
she
going
could get
past her.
there, and I'm like, I need Shota in the top 4. I'm sorry. It's like,
Yeah. Okay.
I've got
Yeah.
Shota going all the way. That means
Sure.
he's gotta beat Britt.
Yeah. Yeah. So it ended up a 1 point game. She won 85-84. And I mean it was yeah, okay. So I'm gonna break down these scores. So he actually beat her on taste,
Mm,
43-42.
wow.
She beat him on the randomizer, 34-33. Okay, so that's tied. But
Okay.
she won on presentation 9-8. Again, another 9.
9. That's a lot
So
of 9s in this one.
yeah, I mean, and honestly, she deserved it. I mean, looking at
Wow.
that, I mean, the way that she had, everything stacked with that chip, it was a
Mhm.
work of art. It was beautiful. But here's the thing: had she not gotten that 9 points on um presentation and they had been tied, he would have won because their
Oh,
first tiebreaker is the taste points. And
wow.
he won by 1 point in taste. So if she hadn't pulled out plating or the randomizer, he would have won this match.
That's something to
That's
think
how
about.
close it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I mean on you never doubt Chris O on flavor. You don't
Mm-mm.
because I mean number one Korean cookie. I mean if you do it well, it's it's good. It's just really good food. It's like Indian food. If you
Mhm.
do it well, it's hard to beat.
Yeah,
You know.
the only thing that I thought might have been an issue for him was, like, you know, with a lot of Asian food,
Mhm.
cheese. not a big factor. You don't see it a lot.
No, but he's really into those fusions. He
Yes.
really is. If anybody has seen his season of the Great Food Truck Race, that's where he started, was a food
Oh,
truck.
okay.
And he was all about that type of, incorporating, more American sensibilities and, those types of fusions and, all I mean, their truck was called Soul Sausage. So, Soul
SEO, yes.
like Seoul,
Yeah,
Korea.
South Korea.
Yes, of course, yeah, of course they're not from North Korea. But yeah, so he's all about that type of thing. So yeah, I was not worried about that. But yeah, so she pulled it out. So, congratulations. I kept my overall bracket intact. The only match that I lost was somebody that I had losing to Britt next round anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll see how that goes. But those are the matches. Next week they will be doing bracket C. So we will see how that goes. But real quick, I want to go ahead and let people know how they can get into contact with us. Of course, you can contact us on the socials at the Flying Cow Pod on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter for as long as I have to keep it. And you can also email at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Make sure to check out everything we've got going on over there. Dan, anything you want people to know about? Or
Well, I don't do much of anything, but I guess I can take this moment to plug my, the stuff my wife does. So if you go to Amanda V Streams, I think that's what it is on. Wait a minute, I'll just get her in here and have her.
I mean, she did it last week, so
Okay.
it's fine. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the most
she
I
was
do
just here.
the most I do online is I occasionally stream some Minecraft. So
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I was about to say I have to get in contact with your wife to get you to do these things.
yeah, I'm
So
not on
yeah,
Facebook either.
I
So yeah.
I wasn't really expecting a whole lot of socials or anything. Honestly, I don't blame you. I wish I could shut most of mine down, but in order to do this stuff, I have to stay in contact with people. So
Yeah, and I keep like the Facebook just for the messenger for one group of friends.
yeah,
So like if
yeah.
you guys would hop off of this, I can abandon Meta, please.
Yeah. 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 No, I wish. I
Mm.
wish I could disavow all that stuff. But um uh like I said, make sure you check us out next week. We should have Lauren and well, I was about to say maybe it won't be as long as this one, but I don't know if you've ever heard me and Lauren podcast, it might be longer. But yeah, make sure you check that out. But until that time, moo.